Can we do it?
Hello, everyone. I'm Alannah Lockitt, money in your pocket, fuel to your rocket, electric to your socket, and welcome to the Access Point, where we discover the access point of successful individuals across various industries. I am so excited to introduce you to a longtime friend and our guest today, Jermon Green. I'm going to bring him right on so we can get into his story and his journey because it is a phenomenal story with all kinds of twists and turns. And so, without further ado, I would like to welcome to the Access Point, Jermon Green.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Alana, it's a pleasure. Been lifelong friends, so I'm happy to be here.
I am excited to have this moment with you, and it's been so long. But I want to share your journey because, as we were talking about earlier, we have known each other since high school. And which you remember more than I do. We've known each other since high school, and we have watched each other really evolve. And we were talking about how many years ago? It had to be like maybe 15 years ago,
17.
maybe 17 years ago. 17 years ago at your mom's house shining up your headlights so you could get your car to pass inspection to now running a multi-million dollar company and just everything. So let's start from the beginning. Tell me about, let's start with your company and then we'll go backwards. Tell me
Okay.
about your company and what you do now.
So currently I have Be There SMG. Be There SMG is a government contracts company. We have been in business for the better part of 17 years, but the main success came in the last 5 years. The idea is not the 5 years, the millions of dollars, the last 5 years. But basically, government contracting for the federal government, from the Department of Justice all the way to the city of Detroit. So currently, there's a variety of contracts. I have a total of 75 human employees. We got to say that now because AI. And but I am working on launching another company that is AI called Icon, and basically that's an execution engine where it uses AI. You may have heard of vibe coding, where people don't have to learn engineering, but we don't. I want to provide an opportunity where people don't have to learn business. You just have your idea, and the agents build the business for you, run it for you, and you
Wow.
just share your vision. So that's what I'm working.
Wow. That is amazing. So I know a little bit more about you, but I want our guests to know a little bit more about you. So you're working in this technology industry, working in business, building all of this up, but you really started at humble beginnings. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood and some of the things that you did when you were younger in grade school, middle school, high school that prepared you for the industry that you work in?
Well, I would say I have been pulling from a lot of background opportunities that I've done. This is not my first foray. I've had maybe 7 or 8 businesses, maybe more. But I remember the very first one was Velians, and Velians was where I had an idea where you can do a self checkout register. So all the self checkout registers, I created the first ones. You can Google it. And basically, I went to this forum that used to happen. There used to be a Shark Tank in Richmond, Virginia, called the Bear. Well, it's called the Ideas to Inc. Forum, where LeClaire Ryan, McGuire Woods, and then entrepreneurs from the city would come and share what their ideas were. And through a round of applause, they would tell you, you're on to the next round. But I think I was about 16 years old when I first went there. I was in high school at Thomas Jefferson High School. And I thought, hey, what if you got rid of cashiers and you just put in? So I guess back then I was still trying to automate people's jobs. But they were the bottleneck. They had a bad day, good day. They didn't know how to register work. But if you just typed in your order, just like we all do now, that was the first the first system and a patent for it and things of this nature. So this is probably 1996. So I'm old, and that was the first foray. But if you go back further than that, it was all my mom pushing me into these different opportunities. I was a part of a program that I'm proud to be a part of. I was called Richmond Area Program for Minorities in Engineering, RAPME.
Mhm.
And then I also, my mom sent me to the Mathematics and Science Center every Saturday for 6 years. So through middle school and high school, I was there. And in RAPME, I was at Virginia State University for 3 years through high school. So I had college credit going into college. So my mom constantly found programs that would, I guess, push my mind to what's possible to absorb the world around me like a sponge. But one of her tenets that I follow to this day is that there's nothing new under the sun.
Mhm.
You're building on the shoulders of giants. Find the giants and step on their shoulders. That's what I did.
Mm. That's really powerful. And that's actually what this series is all about. It's about bringing these giants forward and giving students an opportunity to identify who they are so they can find those shoulders.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you sharing that experience with me, especially with Rap Me and the every Sundays at the Math and Science Center. So your mom really laid a strong foundation for math and science, which is why I guess you were able to figure out on your own how to do programming.
Mm.
Talk to us a little bit about that because I remember when we reconnected 17 years ago, you had actually built from scratch a Facebook game.
Yeah.
And remind me, because I remember there were characters and avatars. Remind me a little bit more about that and kind of what your process was for learning how to do something like that on your own.
Yeah. So I was working at, so I've worked a lot of jobs. I worked at Philip Morris USA. In high school, I worked there as a janitor, and then I worked as a machine operator later on in life, and different things. But I think I had dropped out of college because I was disillusioned. I felt like I went to college to become an entrepreneur, which is not a thing. There is no entrepreneur studies as a degree, a master.
Mhm.
I'm a master entrepreneur. I'm a PhD. That's not how none of that works. And I went to college with the idea of you're going to teach me what I need to know to become wealthy in the way I want to be wealthy.
Mhm.
But what I learned is that college prepares you to be a scholar and to be a part of someone else's machine. So they don't tell you how to go out and be Rockefeller. They don't. Oh, you want to be a Rockefeller? Here's the next up and coming Rockefeller. But they do teach you how to be useful to other people.
Mhm.
I was like, huh, that's not what I thought this was. And of course, it's probably because of all that pre-training I had at the Mathematics and Science Center and at RAPME and all these other programs my mom had found. So it was very interesting to get into these situations where I'm working jobs. So I've always felt like there was a greater calling. And so that
Mhm.
greater calling was like, I think I'm supposed to be doing more than this. And so even so, when I left school, my mom was disappointed, but I was like, nah, Microsoft, Bill Gates dropped out, and all these people dropped out, but they're white. And there's the reality that you're not white,
Mhm.
and there's
Mhm.
other
Mhm.
opportunities that are available to people that are non-brown and black
Mhm.
that you don't actually have. And I would say to my mom, but money is green. They only care about money. And so I did the U.S. Census for a little while. That year that it came out, I went around and did the census. I remember I was on government assistance
Mhm.
because I was sliding backwards, and I was going backwards into life. And I'm like, oh man, I'm doing this wrong. I'm like, and there was a quote on some program. I can't quite remember. It said that human intelligence is a sexual organ, and it said that
Mhm.
human intelligence is a peacock tail, like it's your plumage. And if
Mhm.
you're really smart, you should have a lot of resources because your intelligence should be the anchor, the gravitational pull to pull more things to you. And I was like, damn, I don't got nothing. I must not be that smart. And so I decided to be an engineer. I said, you know what? I'm going to be an engineer. My mom's like, what? That's not how that works. I think it is. And so I said, well, I projected myself into the future. and I worked backwards. And I said, okay, well, I'm already an engineer, but I need to talk like one. I need
Mhm.
to know the culture. I need to know everything. So I'm going to infiltrate this whole process, but I need to study it like a character. So I turned myself into an engineer. How did I do it? First thing you need is a portfolio. Well, you got to go to Facebook. And I looked at Facebook and I didn't know anything about programming per se, but I would research. I would look at the code. There's a way that you can look at the code, and I would look at that code
Mhm.
and I would pull the code out and I would go study. Well, what does this mean? I learned about Stack Overflow, and then I learned about these communities and they're all helping each other. So I was able to extract it out. All right, lesson one. I created something called, there was a game called Mafia Wars. I reverse engineered it and create my own game from there. So I got a portfolio. Then second, you still got to talk like one. So I started learning how to write a resume as an engineer. An engineering resume is not like another person's resume. Then you get interviewed. There's a 3 process interview. You got to get whiteboarded. They're going to give you pop quizzes. They want to prove you know what you're doing from the top of your head. Well, I
Mhm.
learned that I'm not going to get these jobs right off. So I had to come up with, well, just use these for studying. Study every interview. And then
Mhm.
eventually there's going to be a pattern that emerges, which they're going to ask you the same questions over and over and over again. And
Mhm.
after 100 interviews, and it was
Mhm.
100 interviews, and 90 days later, I got my first job offer for $130,000 at College Board. I called
I
my
remember
mom,
that.
and she was like, "Did they put it in writing?" Yes, and they were so impressed with me. But I had did 100 interviews, and
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
then I had the whole idea of imposter syndrome because now I'm at the job, and getting through the door is one thing, but keeping the job, learning corporate culture, that's not the
Mhm.
same as blue collar culture. You don't
Mhm.
just talk in meetings. There's so many nuances to learn. So you're taking notes and what not to ask, because now it's politics versus blue
Mhm.
collar work. There is politics, but it's in the workroom. And the
Mhm.
politics is now you may get fired or demoted because you say the wrong thing to the wrong person and they just don't like you. So there's a lot more to learn. And so then I got my sea legs, so to speak. And then I learned when at the $130,000 job I got, I was actually making 260 because I came on as a contractor. So then I spoke to the people, how do we give me all the money? Well, you got to go start an LLC. And that was the journey that got me to here.
Mhm. Yeah. So that I remember when that happened, and I remember those interviews, going to those interviews, and I think it was at like interview 77,
Yeah.
um, that you were like, I just got to keep pushing, and I was in such awe because I was like, I feel like, I'm great. You're smart. Why can't you just go into the interview and get the job? Look at all these things that you did. You're amazing. And you speak very well. I just didn't understand what made you push through to 100, because it wasn't until that 100th interview. And that's a lot, like applying for the job, putting the suit on, showing up. You remember I had a whole routine. Do you remember my routine before I went out?
I don't remember it.
You don't remember? I'd be like, push my shoulders back and
Oh,
look in the mirror, you know? So
yes.
I would have to like hype myself up for
Yes.
these interviews, but you were going out there and you stayed the course. What was it that motivated you, that kept pushing you? Um, and we've talked about like working in the hole, and ironically, I've talked about this a lot in the last 2 months, is how long can you work in the hole without seeing the progress that you
The
want
light.
to see? Yeah, how long can you stay down there and keep going? And I don't think most people can go through 100 interviews, and really say, I'm equipped for this, right? Like after about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you like, maybe I need to just go back to the factory, right? But you kept pushing, and you did not have a degree at this time.
Mm.
You just had a portfolio of work that you built on your own from things that you had learned, and you just kept going. What was that thing that kept you in the hole working?
So it's a non-obvious mental trick. The mind can do anything. The mind can do anything. The mind can do anything, but you have to trick it. Um, if you change your perception of what you're doing, and you gotta let me back up. We're all telling ourselves a story in our head, and that's consciousness. How many animals are telling themselves a story in their head? Many are not. The moth always flies to the flame because it can't resist the urges in its body. So
Mm,
the urges, there's a quick story. The moth is trying to correct so that its left side or right side is to the moon. Humans created light, so then it gets confused because it's trying
Mm.
to course correct for the moon so that it can see the predators, owls and bats swooping out to get it. So it course corrects into a spiral, and it spirals into the light, the flame, and kills itself. It's not trying to kill itself, but it cannot resist the urge of its biology. So then,
Mm.
how many of us have a biological pretext to eat certain things we shouldn't eat? So we're not being conscious of them. We're going along with the signals in our body, the chemical signals in our body. But what I learned is tell yourself a different story.
Mm.
And if you tell yourself a different story, that allows you to empower yourself to do anything. So
Wow.
when we talk about being in the dark, it's don't call it the dark. If you call it the dark, then you're going to go, oh my God, I'm in the dark. If
Mhm.
I said this was 100 interviews, it was not 100 interviews. It was 100 research sessions,
Mm.
researching. And do I have enough information? And how will I know I have enough information? I'll get the job.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So it wasn't 100 interviews. Of course, if you frame it as 100 interviews, that's insane. But if you frame it as I'm on a safari, right? And if you know I'm not here to get a job, I'm here to get your questions, right? So
Mhm.
that's the
Mhm.
question you ask. Bubble theory. I didn't know about that one. Yeah. All right. So then you go to the next one. So Jermon, tell me about OOP, object oriented programming. Oh, I didn't
Mhm.
hear about that one. I don't know anything about that. Well, thank you for coming back. Thank you for having me. And you just and now you're auditing like a class. You're
Mm.
auditing all this information, and then by the fact that you're in the sessions, all of a sudden in the sessions, you're also in a trial by fire situation where
Mhm.
all of a sudden everything that you're doing it matters. So it's not like you're if you don't get all the information, you won't pass. And every new interview, you're learning how to put your shoulders up, talk a little. Hey, did you see? They came up with a new Xeon processor. Oh, they talk now. You can talk shop, and you can mold yourself into this character.
Mhm.
So it's the reframing of what you're doing. So when PT Alana, when you go through the whole process of you've had 35 different organizations, but
Mhm.
you don't frame them as businesses. You frame them in the same way. You're like, all right, today I am this, and you sprinkle that PT dust on you, and you become a whole new entity in that, and then you
Mhm.
can work for long hours because you're playing a role. And then
Mhm.
when you feel like, all right, I got enough research out of that, and if it doesn't make money within X amount of period of time, you're put energy and time into it. But if it doesn't produce enough resource, if it doesn't produce more out of it than you put into it, you say, all
Mhm.
right, cancel that one, on to
Mhm.
the next one. And it took
Mhm.
me a long time to learn your process because your process was like, hey, you haven't finished that. Well, I finished it. Oh, okay, my bad. I thought you wanted to, and you would get mad at me. You'd be like, hey, I
It's
told you to bring
done.
that up. I'm done with it. Yes, ma'am. I just thought maybe but it's learning. It's learning the role in your life, learning your role in my life, learning your role in life.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
And
you
that's
learn
kind of how
every story.
we came to this discussion about working in the whole, right? And I think your working in the dark is about 2 years, and my working in the dark is about 6 months.
Yeah,
And so
that's right. Six. I
And
can do
so
2 years in
yeah,
a job.
yeah. So and we talked about this, and that was like for me, it helped me also understand myself because I do you remember? And we kind of started this at the same time when we were starting clothing businesses.
Yeah, yeah, you did it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we started a
you
clothing
did a
business.
whole bit. You did the catalog, and you couldn't find suppliers.
Yes, and we went through it, like, we really learned that
Business.
together. So there were multiple sides that we had to learn. There was the SEO
Mm-hmm.
and the ads that we had to learn, and we were playing with the ads
The
and
Facebook
talking
lives.
the Facebook, all of that, and then we also had the suppliers, and I was getting drop shipping, and we had this whole process that eventually we had to develop about how do you know you have a good product, pre-ordering everything, testing it out. And I did make money. I did well in that business. But after it was done, I was like, okay, we did it.
I'm done.
On to the next one. you know. Um, So for me, I know how long I can work, and sometimes I work agile. And for those who don't know what agile is, it's like this secular, you know, doing things in this motion instead of a straight line across. And so a lot of people, it looked like I was just doing a whole lot of stuff.
Mhm.
But in my mind, I had a vision and I was working every day towards a lot of goals. Um, but now that leads me to this moment where you're working in the hole for this amount of time, you finally get the job, and but there's another set of issues that you're facing once you get the job, and that is being a black man in a predominantly white space.
The only person.
How have you evolved, and what have you learned, and how do you still show up authentically and still keep your identity and your integrity, but also your self confidence? And we talked about this imposter syndrome, like walking into these rooms where you know when they see you, they are automatically intimidated. You are a big black man.
Well, you know, first I would say that there's two different cultures. There's the worker culture, and then there's the owner culture. Workers are generational workers, um, and generational workers, they grow up thinking about what job they're going to get. They tell their children what job they're going to get. They go, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because they don't realize they're already a human being. So their job becomes their personality, their persona, their character, their role. And the whole procession is a worker culture, and they are simultaneously consumers. So they work and they consume to work, they work to consume. Whilst there's another culture that hires all the workers, and their dinner table conversations are completely different. Their dinner conversations is, what assets are you going to buy this weekend? Oh, how are your assets doing? I want to go to San Tropez this weekend. I'm going. It's a whole different conversation. And when I realized that I was trying to break through from the worker culture to the
Mhm.
owner culture, so worker culture has ego, trying to show up. My family, we were poor, so we learned that on Christmas time, break all the boxes down at night and put them in the trash can because you don't want your neighbors to know what you got because they may rob you.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
the way
Mhm.
it is. And when you move out at night. When you move in at night. So no one is seeing what you're bringing in and out of your house. And so
Mhm.
these are things they don't tell you. You have
Mhm.
to know.
Mhm. Mhm.
We draw your blinds. If you go into a predominantly wealthy neighborhood, the windows are open.
Yes.
Their boxes are out on the curb. I got this 35-inch TV or 75-inch TV. They show you everything because it's a different culture.
Mhm.
And so when we talk about going into the workplace, it's talking about, the things that I learned, the behaviors that were valuable from where I'm from are not valuable in this context.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so then you have culture shock is what we're talking about. Oh, I thought that meant that you saw me as you took that as disrespect. Oh,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
disrespectful. That's respect. Oh, you mean something different with respect than I mean with. Oh, crap. We speak completely different language that use the same words.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I learned first that everything's not a pissing contest. And in the work world, everything is a pissing contest.
Mhm.
But it's the opposite. There's self-deprecation. Oh, you might be at a dinner party and somebody says to Charles, he doesn't have to be any color, but Charles, Charles, you have that 75-foot yacht. Oh, that boat, it's just a boat. And they try to shrink their wealth. They try to shrink and say, I'm just a humble person, just trying to get
Mhm.
back. Versus
Mhm.
in the worker culture, I'm bigger than you think. I'm
Mhm.
super valuable. Don't disrespect my value. It's a projection outwards through poverty
Mhm.
and camouflage through commodity. Just write that
Mm.
down.
Yeah, that was deep. Don't worry, you can go back and listen to this. That is so good. Yeah, wow. You know what? You are right, because there are these different cultural norms that when you grow up in a less fortunate family in a community that you learn that you have to unlearn when you go into these other spaces. How do you, I guess that's just a trial and error thing.
Well, it goes back to how I did the interview,
Yeah.
or when I call them research sessions. I'm not in these spaces as a worker. I'm not here to work. I didn't start engineering because I loved engineering. I wanted a way out, so it became a path. So when you change roles and say, I am now an attorney, or I'm now an accountant, now I'm the president of the United States, now I am the, it's, what are you really after? You're after a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
everything else is just a means to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Once you
Mm-hmm.
understand, you rewrite the story, you're not working a job. You're not supposed to be working a job. You're getting your startup fund. You're
Mm-hmm.
getting your resources together for what you really want. If you want to live in France 4 times out of the year or whatever, then you reorganize your life to make that
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Mm-hmm.
So for
Mm-hmm.
me, being my authentic self and things of that nature, it's really about um, one, it's trial by fire. So you gotta learn. It's almost like you're in a balancing act, and you gotta read the room. So there's maybe some skills I picked up by being in the homes that I grew up in. You got to read the room, you got to read people, and you got to do snap judgments. Okay, don't do that. And you gotta move and shift. It's almost like verbal boxing,
Mm-hmm.
and the other person doesn't know they're boxing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're the alien, you're the foreigner in their space, and you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to go. Oh, that's what y'all do. Okay, that's what you do. Without them picking up that that's what's going on. But
Right.
it's good for It's almost like we're negotiating uh, in real time.
That takes a
And
lot of self-awareness that you have to know, okay, I have a deficit. And you have to admit that you have a deficit and you have to be willing to learn and listen and also kind of confront some things that make you uncomfortable.
mhm,
So that, is really important. I think that everyone who's going into a new career has to have like a come to yourself moment where you really have this self-awareness. So I want to skip forward a little bit. Let's talk about where you are now. I really want to talk about actually a couple of stages that we hit before we got there, because you also started this company Momencity
mhm.
10, which was this great idea, and you worked in the hole for a really long time on it. And
Yeah. You
it
were there with me. You were
I
there
was
with me
there with
working it
you. I
out.
was there with you. But and then some people, they see successful entrepreneurs like, now you've got a big amazing house and a really nice car and you make all this money, but you didn't succeed at everything. Um I want to talk a little bit about those things that you didn't succeed at, the things that, and when did you know it was time to move on, and the pain of being ahead of your time.
Yeah. Um, so I would say I've been building the same company over and over again.
Mm,
Not realizing until recently that that's what I've been doing. I've been building the same thing over and over again. So it's preordained that I build this thing, and I'm supposed to birth this thing into the universe. But it's the same thing. AI just made it easier for me to do it. But the pain points, when do you know it's time to put something up? So why did I keep going? Why did I stop at the 25th interview, the 50th interview, the 75th interview? When I got to probably the 90th interview, I was like, I started to lose hope. I'm like, well, maybe I'm getting this wrong because I've gotten all the questions right,
mhm.
and it's just they don't like me,
Yeah,
right? You can't make people like you.
yeah.
There's nothing you can do. And you shouldn't try.
Mhm.
And so you you can do all the calculations you want, but you cannot make people like. There's no magic potion, and you don't want them to pretend they like you either. It's a whole
No,
different animal.
no.
So for me, I kept going. I became disillusioned towards the end of that experiment, and to me, I'm doing a series of experiments of seeing what's
Mm,
possible. So what is my internal narrative? I just want to see what's possible. I want to
mm,
see how far I can go. I want to see how high I can fly, how far I can fall and get back up. It's just me experiencing life. So then,
yeah,
with that internal core narrative, all of a sudden, everything becomes an experiment. And do you got enough data? Did
yeah.
did you push yourself hard enough? Do you? It's almost like a parent. I'm parenting myself. So how'd you do? That one was crazy. I lost my eyebrows. All right, let's do it again. And that's what I'm doing. And so, for example, when I mentioned earlier, Facebook Live, depending on how big this gets, Jermon, we don't want to do business with you. No, I want to make sure I clarify that. So, Facebook has an algorithm that you have to train, and they call it a pixel. And that pixel is required to, you have to train the pixel in order to sell stuff for Facebook, to sell
Mhm.
stuff through
Mhm.
Facebook and for Facebook. Now, me being an intuitive guy, I kind of reverse engineered how their algorithm works. And I'm like, wait a minute. So, and I got certification. I got Facebook certifications on how to do all this stuff. And they started calling me because I was spending so much money. They were like, oh, Jamal, we got to call you. How you doing this week? Well, it turns out, and this is how do you know when to stop? And this is why I stopped. I was selling clothes. I was doing well, and I was selling clothes, and I stopped because I learned it's rigged.
Mm.
And so the idea is, and it's rigged from a corporate standpoint. That's how it's supposed to go. You're just not supposed to intuit. It's almost like I learned how to count cards, and
Mm.
you're not supposed to do that. So the idea was when you train your Facebook Pixel, so you have to train their AI. They do have an AI. You have to train their AI. You normally have to feed it 10,000. I don't know what the number is. 10,000 prior sales, and it's going to create a profile and look through its internal network of all the people that look alike. Look alike. You may recall that
Mhm.
look like the
Mhm.
people you're trying to sell. They store that information for about 90 days, 1 quarter, and then they reset and destroy the information because if they do that for all their sellers, they're going to have all this data debt. They're going to have to store all this. So they
Mhm.
reset your pixel. And then, so that means that when you first get started, you're in between a rock and a hard place. If you don't have 10,000 sales, you got to spend 30 days trying to get 10,000. And notice I said 30, not 90. You got to spend 10, 30 days to try to get to your 10,000. And if you don't get to the 10,000 because you need it on the reset day, and you don't know
Mhm.
what the reset day is, you'll just know that your ROAS starts to drop, and then you got to reinvigorate that 10,000. Now you're doing fine. Then on top of that, I learned that Facebook's make sure that their ROAS they get about 1 to 10% of what your sales are, and
Mhm. No
once
matter what.
no matter what.
No matter what, they're gonna get their money, and they figured out how to make sure they show it to that the 10th person is gonna buy, and they're gonna get their money, but they're gonna get at least $5
Hmm.
before they let you get a sale. And they
That
know who's gonna buy, and they know who to put it in front of so that they're gonna buy because they've got all the data, but they're gonna make sure that they show it to the amount of people that they need to show it to get their money first.
yes.
So it was most definitely rigged. And I think we found that out about the stock market too when we started trading options, and we
Yeah.
were like, oh, we don't actually have control. It's the institutions that are actually
Institutional
moving
traders.
the market. And so uh, everything, it feels like everything is rigged. And in order to win the game, you've got to figure out how to stand in the right place of the rigging.
That
Um, but then I also want to talk about the first iteration of Momencity 10 because I know this might be a pain point because there was a lot that happened, but this company was so ahead of its time. It would actually, you could go online and stream a live show that you would not be able to record or download, so other people couldn't use your material, and it was live, and it was just ahead of its time. Like if we had that technology during COVID, we would have blown up, so it would have gone so far, but it was just really ahead of its time. And I remember us going to artists to get artists onto the platform.
person went.
Yeah,
Yes.
personally went to talk to artists, and they were like, "Talk to my manager." And we like, "Dude, we trying to cut out your manager. We trying to get you all the money." And they were like, "I just want exposure." And we were like, "But we want to get you some money." They were like, "Nah, I just want exposure." And how frustrating that was. And then the pivot, right? We were like, "Okay, well, we're going to pivot into a movement." And now it's taken on another pivot. Um, and it's now evolved into icon. So, do I have that right?
Not
Somewhat.
it's not a direct correlation now.
Okay. All right. Well, Take us through that journey really quickly because I know you have a hard stop, but take us through
Yeah,
that journey really quickly. And I do want to talk about Icon. I do want to talk about this AI that you have developed and created and how you were able to do that. So, really quick, that journey.
sure. So basically, Momencity 10, uh, Momencity is all about, initially, it was trying to be MTV online. So, what
Mhm.
would MTV look like if it was born in the social media age? So, how can you highlight artists and acts doing their thing across the world and across the country? So, um, working backwards through that, trying to find places, PBS, Public Broadcast
Mhm,
Studios,
mhm, mhm.
places where they could perform and do their gig
And you
live.
had to pay for like a special server that was costing a lot of money.
Yeah, spending
How
ten
much do
thousand
you think?
dollars
How much money do you think you dropped into that project?
1.1 million.
uh,
Yes. I was spending lots of money because it was, the service were 10,000 a month.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. But there
so,
was you had a vision and you kept pressing through. And I think I really the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it doesn't always work, right? Like you have a vision. It was a great idea. It was a great idea. I mean, I still have people reaching out to me to this day, like, "Hey, what was that platform? I want to use it now." You,
really,
you know, and like, ah. But you knew you had to pivot. You knew you had to take a different turn, and you've taken a different turn. And so now we are working on something different now. Tell me about that.
well, just to go back one step. So I would say that there's something I learned called, Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect, are you familiar with it?
Mm-mm.
So Dunning-Kruger is an experiment that was done, I guess, by MIT or Harvard. But the idea is it's the two scientists that did the social experiment. But to kind of put it in a nice little box and put it in a bow, it means you don't know enough to know you don't know enough.
Mm.
So you are operating in ignorance, thinking that's all there is to it. One of the things in our back and forth that we're having today is, as we go through our hit list, our greatest hits, as we go through our greatest hits, what we realize is we get to a point of where we started something in absolute ignorance.
Mhm,
Then we
mhm.
become absolutely aware and go, man, screw this. We're absolutely aware of how this works. And Facebook's like, all right, now that you know how the game works, I'm like, so I got to spend $100,000 to get to my, and then screw this.
We did that with Google Ads too. The Google Ads too. The Google
Google,
Ads are even worse.
right. And so when you go through, and Google ads are, well, I won't go to it, but the whole idea is once we learned about the stock market, oh, you got to trade with the institution. So you're looking for the institutional moves because they step their foot into a small pool, raise all boats, and then you got to get out when they get out. Oh, don't trade against them. Oh man. And then you gotta have this much money in for it to work. And so the idea is, when you're working in the dark, our darkness is our ignorance of how it
Mhm,
actually works. The
mhm,
light is the breakthrough of, oh, that's how this works. And so what's happened is, as we've gone, both, I'll speak for you as well, as we've gone through life, we've tied all together. That's not how that works. And we are in this meta space, like, not the Facebook meta, but this metaphysical reality, looking back down and going, yeah, that's not how none of this works. There's
mhm,
always a hitch. There's
mhm,
always a gotcha. So now we're looking for the gotchas. So when we
mhm.
were 18, 18, 19, 20, or any time before today, we were like, you could have got me. You could have got me. But now we're like, that's not, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure that's not how that works. Well,
yeah.
all you got to do is XYZ. Dunning Kruger. You
Mhm,
think your ignorance thinks that that's how that works. And so when we get to icon is supposed to erase that.
mhm,
Icon is this is the vaccine for ignorance. So the
mhm,
idea is that you don't have to know. So when we get to AI has absorbed all humanity's knowledge. ChatGPT, Claude, and I realize, wait a minute, if it's absorbed all the knowledge, that's what people are missing. There's people with great ideas. There's another Jermon with a Momencity 10 right now. I can rescue that guy, and I
mhm,
can tell him without fighting him about his idea. You don't know the middle steps. You know the outcome, but you don't know there's a 7-year journey to get there.
mhm.
So AI can do the 7-year journey. You don't care about the pregnancy, you care about the birth. And that's what the company offers.
So how did you get into, I mean, AI, you've been talking about this for a while, even before it initially came out, when we were looking at the Oculus and the metaverse, and then we started talking about AI and using these spaces. How did you get into that space? Because did you take any classes, or you just sat down and learned
You
it?
know what I did. So I went through the whole process of same thing. So you and I, as I listen to this conversation in the metaverse, I look at it and say we're early adopters. So when it
Mhm,
goes to the Oculus, I'm gonna order my mom one of those robots servants,
mhm,
Neo.
mhm,
She said,
mhm,
"Don't you get me that thing? I'm gonna get you that thing. Let's see if we can help you out." And but yeah, so we're early adopters, and so a lot when you're an early adopter, there is no documentation.
mhm,
There's no roadmap. And it's fun because I'm an experiment. At the end of the day, I'm a life scientist, and the frontier is where I thrive. I thrive
mhm,
where no one knows how it's supposed to work, and my ego is big enough to go. I think I can figure it out. I think I can figure a path out here. And because of my life experiences of looking for gotchas, I'm going. How can I turn my win into a platform for other people? And
mhm,
that's where I'm at now in my headspace.
mhm,
So it's not. I don't want to build a company for me. I want to take this, and I've learned platform economics is the better business model. You go pull all these resources when you started the I think you were going to Cavalier Clothing and you pulled all these resources together, got all these people together. If you had turned it
mhm,
around and said, now how many people in Richmond want to start a clothing company, and then all the things that you've put together becomes their factory floor. They
mhm,
lease the factory floor from you.
mhm, mhm,
You've
mhm,
removed the fact that y'all don't know the steps. Now you became the AI, but we didn't know how to frame it. So
mhm,
if we go, it kind of goes back to how you do in comedy. You tell a joke and then you tell something in the back to run it. I forgot what it's called. But the idea is when you go full circle, it's just the story.
mhm,
If you don't look at what you're doing with the proper frame of mind, you will squander a wonderful resource.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so and my dad once told me, he said Albert Einstein is a genius because he can get up from the table and he can reframe the problem 100 different ways. How many ways can you reframe the problem? You're looking at the problem
mhm,
one way. Get up from the table and reframe it. Maybe you're supposed to look at it from a superhero perspective. Maybe you're supposed to look at it from a scientist perspective. Maybe you're supposed to look at it from a mom's perspective, dad's
mhm,
perspective. If you can't shift and look at it, reframe the narrative, you won't find a
mhm,
solution. And that's my
mhm.
superpower. The ability I can create 100 different narratives for the same thing.
Wow. So that requires a lot of neuroplasticity, being able to create new pathways and see things in a different, and pushing yourself to say, okay, well, how many different perspectives can I look at this? And someone who's really rigid, we go back to this worker mentality, who's really rigid has a hard time because it requires vision. It
Mhm,
requires for you to be able to see forward into a future that doesn't exist.
mhm,
And you are um, almost like how there might be multiple, every time you make a decision, there's another universe that another decision is
mhm,
made,
mhm,
right? But
mhm,
this requires this imagination, neuroplasticity, the ability to create new pathways in your own mind to think about things in a different way. Um, and that, I don't think that that's something that you can create later on in life. You have to have that curiosity. I think that's where it starts at, the
yes, ma'am.
curiosity to go and figure that out. And then so we've got a couple of things that we've discovered, right? You've got to have one, that curiosity to go and figure it out, to reverse engineer the Facebook. You've got to have the ability to know how long you can work in the hole
Mhm,
and know when you've reached your limit.
mhm,
And then you've got to be able to pivot. And sometimes people get so stuck into one place and wanting to make that one thing work that it's difficult for them to pivot because they haven't explored the other options.
mhm.
And so I love that we've had this conversation. We have such deep conversations and we could talk for hours and
Yes, yes,
hours
ma'am.
and hours and hours and hours. But I know you have to go.
Yeah,
And usually these sessions are only 20 minutes, but we are already at
double
45.
it up.
So, and there's still so much I want to talk about, but I have to let you go.
All right.
Is there anything that you want to share with our audience that you feel like they should take with them at the end of this?
Stay tuned for more from Alannah Lockitt, Money in Your Pocket. She's amazing. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more guests. So I just want to promote you. And that's how I want to end it.
Thank you so much. I definitely am looking forward to learning more about Icon and what you are doing with that. Keep us abreast. If you ever want to come back on and talk specifically about Icon, I would love that. AI is very hot right now, and people are trying to figure out how to make it work for them, and how to use it to make themselves smarter and not dumber, which requires a certain set of skills and an understanding and a perspective that the average person just, not that they can't learn, they just haven't thought of. So I look forward to having you back and talking about that. But I want to thank you so much, Jermon. This has been
Thank
really great.
you. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to coming back. You have a great day.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Can we do it?